Hey guys, tonight we step into the shoes of a Viking blacksmith. Imagine the air still crisp with the remnants of night, the faintest hint of smoke curling in the breeze, and the world just waking up that the quiet of the early morning is broken only by the distant cries of birds and the sound of feet heavy on the dew-soaked ground. You're not rushing anywhere. In fact, there's no need to hurry at all. The work you're about to do demands patience, precision, and time. It's early too. Early, you might think, as you stretch your tired limbs and adjust to the dim light seeping into the blacksmith's hut. This is no place for luxury or pampering. You probably won't survive this, especially if you're someone who enjoys sleeping in or brewing a pot of coffee before starting the day. But here, in the heart of the Viking world, the day begins with the smell of iron, coal, and wood. Your hands are already itching for the metal, and the forge is calling. Before you even step inside the blacksmith's workshop, the first task is to prepare. The cold air of the morning mixes with the warm glow of embers from yesterday's fire. You stoke the furnace, gently coaxing the flame back to life. There's no rush. This is your time, your ritual. The first spark of fire is as familiar to you. As the sun's first light, as the flames crackle back to life, you take a deep breath and prepare yourself. This isn't just about work. It's about living this ancient tradition, feeling the rhythm of the forge coursing through your veins. It's a different world here. The simple tasks of a Viking blacksmith have a weight that feels eternal, something you can almost touch. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I'd love to know where you're tuning in from, so post your location and local time below. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Asterisk, as you step into the blacksmith's workshop, the familiar scent of coal and sweat fills your nose. The room is warm, but not unbearably so. Thanks to the steady glow of the forge. It's as if the world outside doesn't exist anymore. It's just you, the fire, and the tools that had been passed down for generations. The anvil stands proudly at the center of the room, weathered and chipped, but sturdy as ever. It's a workhorse that has seen its fair share of battles, metaphorical and literal. You approach the anvil with purpose, feeling the ground beneath you firm with each step. It's as though the earth itself is grounding you to this moment, as if it's reminding you that what you do here today matters, both for your village and for the generations that will follow. But first, there's one thing that demands your attention. The forge. The fire is the heart of your work, and you have to nurture it like a living thing. You adjust the bellows, and soon enough, the flames begin to lick higher. The heat intensifies, crackling and snapping. You know it's at the right temperature now, hot enough to mold iron, but not so much that it will burn away your precious material. It's a delicate balance, one that comes only with years of experience, and perhaps even a bit of luck. The fire has always been a constant in the blacksmith's life. It's not just about heating metal. It's about transformation. Iron becomes something greater, something forged with purpose. In the glow of the firelight, the world outside seems so distant, irrelevant even. Time slows here, stretching out into an endless loop of hammer strikes. And molten metal. Historians still argue whether early Viking blacksmiths had a secret trick to getting the flames just right, or if it was simply a matter of decades spent learning the dance between fire and metal. Regardless, it's clear that this moment, this first strike against the anvil, sets the tone for the rest of the day. Everything else will follow. But it all begins here, in the heat of the forge. As your first strike lands, the clang of hammer on metal echoes through the workshop. The sound vibrates through your bones, deep and rich. You are part of something larger than yourself, a tradition that goes back centuries. Each strike is another step in a long chain, stretching back through history, all the way to the first. Blacksmith who forged tools out of necessity and beauty, alike. Your breath steadies, and your rhythm falls into place. It's almost hypnotic, the way your arm moves, each strike becoming a part of you. The sound of the hammer hitting the metal becomes a song, a melody you've learned over years of practice. It's no longer just a job. It's a calling. But it's not just the metal that's important. It's the rhythm of the work itself. You're building something, whether it's a simple tool or a mighty weapon. It doesn't matter. The process is sacred. The repetitive motion is almost meditative, and you lose track of time as the world fades into the background. This rhythm is soothing. As the hammer hits and the metal cools, you feel a sense of pride, of belonging, knowing that this simple act connects you to countless others before you. The hammer strikes against the anvil, sending sparks flying into the air. A brief, brilliant display that's gone as quickly as it came. The world outside the forge might be chaotic, but here in the quiet heat, you are at peace. The fire hums, the anvil clinks, and you work. You've been here before, and you'll be here again tomorrow. There's no rush. The work will take as long as it needs, and you'll be here to see it through, one strike at a time. Now that the forge is glowing steadily, you step closer to the heat. The furnace roars, its flames dancing in an orange embrace as they lick at the air, filling the workshop with warmth. The glow is inviting, but also dangerous, like an untamed beast you've learned to respect. It's not a force to be toyed with, but one that you've spent years coaxing into cooperation. You breathe in deeply, knowing that the next step is crucial. Too hot, and the metal burns away. Too cold, and it becomes impossible to shape. Finding that perfect balance is your skill, your craft. You know the rhythm by heart. Now opening the furnace, assessing the glow, feeling the temperature on your skin, making small adjustments. It's like a dance, each movement deliberate and practiced, honed by years of blacksmithing in the same small space. The heat from the fire stings the skin on your arms, but you don't flinch. You've grown used to it. Over the years, you've learned how to judge the temperature by feel, not just by sight. Your hands become extensions of the forge itself, sensitive to its every shift and change. Historians still argue whether ancient blacksmiths used any early technology to regulate furnace temperature, or if it was purely the intuition and experience of the smith that governed it. Either way, it's clear that this practice is built on trial and error, not just science. And there's something meditative about this process, about controlling fire and metal with nothing but your body, your knowledge, and your intuition. It's as if the work itself becomes an extension of you. The fire flickers, and you carefully select your iron. You place it into the flames, watching it glow red, then orange. It's delicate work, too long in the fire, and the metal becomes brittle, too short, and it's impossible to shape. You stand there for what feels like hours, just watching the flame, the metal, and the anvil. There's a rhythm to the process, and you've become attuned to it, as if it's a living thing that you're coaxing into shape. The heat of the furnace becomes a steady companion, a soft hum in the background of your thoughts. As the metal reaches the right temperature, you remove it from the furnace and place it carefully on the anvil. The work is about to begin, and your focus sharpens. The hammer feels like an extension of your arm as it strikes, sending the heated metal into a new shape. Each blow is a controlled force, a measured stroke that brings the metal closer to the shape you need. As the metal cools, you watch it closely. The heat from the furnace hasn't just changed the metal's form, it's also altered its texture and strength. This is the magic of the forge, a process that turns raw, unyielding material into something powerful, flexible, and useful. And yet, despite the danger and intensity of the fire, there's something peaceful about this. You've always found a certain tranquility in the rhythmic nature of blacksmithing. Dot the fire becomes a steady, breathing presence. And as you strike the metal, you lose yourself in the flow of work. Dot. It's almost as though time stops, the outside world fades, and for a moment, there is only you, the anvil, and the flame. Dot. It's a simple act, but one that has sustained generations before you. The fire and the metal, working together, forging something new. Dot. The quiet moments between the strikes are where you find your peace. The steady hum of the forge, the crackle of the fire, and the sound of the metal cooling in the air. This is where you truly exist. There is no rush, no urgency. The rhythm of the work becomes your own, and you begin to forget about the world outside. Viking blacksmith's life is simple, but in its simplicity, there is profound meaning. You glance around the workshop, and for the first time today, you really notice the tools. Each one is worn, weathered from years of use. The hammer feels right in your hand, the handle smooth from years of gripping, the head slightly dented but solid. It's not a new tool, but it's one you trust. It's almost like an old friend. You've become so familiar with these tools over the years that they've become an extension of yourself. The hammer, the tongs, the chisels, all of them carry stories. From the countless items you've created to the conversations you've had while working with them, each tool has seen its fair share of heat, sweat, and toil. In fact, some of these tools have been passed down to you by the generations before. There's a particular anvil that's been in your family for as long as you can remember. It's old, almost ancient, but it's steadfast, and the familiar clang of metal against it is a sound you've grown to rely on. The history of your craft is carried in the weight of these tools, their edges shaped by generations of use. They're not just tools, they're a bridge to the past, to the countless blacksmiths who stood in this very spot, shaping metal with their hands. Historians still argue whether blacksmithing tools evolved rapidly or slowly during the Viking Age. But one thing's clear, the basic principles of forging haven't changed. The tools may be slightly different today, but the work is still the same. And as you pick up each tool, you're reminded that you're part of something far older than you. A lineage of craftsmen who worked to create, sustain, and protect their communities. There's the hammer, of course, the central tool of the craft. The head is heavy and solid, designed to strike with precision. Then, the tongs, clumsy at first, but now an extension of your own body. The tongs are essential for controlling the hot metal, guiding it with a steady hand to where it needs to be. You run your fingers over the edges of the chisels, feeling the sharpness, the slight curve in the blades. Each chisel has its own role, from shaping the edges of a sword to adding intricate designs to a shield. You pause for a moment and reflect on the versatility of these tools. It's not just the obvious implements, the hammer and tongs, that make your work possible. It's the seemingly small tools. 2. The files that smooth edges. The punches that create decorative markings. Even the simple bucket used to hold water for quenching. You think about how each one has a purpose, how each tool has its place in the rhythm of the forge. Without them, none of this would be possible. You pick up the bellows next, the instrument that controls the flow of air into the furnace. It's a simple design, but it's essential for keeping the fire alive. Without it, the flames would die out, and the metal would cool too quickly. You know that the bellows are just as important as the hammer, though they don't receive the same praise. But without the right air pressure, the furnace would never reach the temperature needed to mold the metal. As you continue to work, you think about the generations of blacksmiths who came before you. Each one of them used these tools, passed them down, and refined them. In many ways, these tools are a direct link to the past. They've been held by calloused hands and swung with precision for hundreds of years. Each tool carries the weight of tradition, of craft, and of skill. For a moment, you step back and survey the workspace. The forge crackles in the background, the metal slowly cooling under the force of your hammer strikes. The tools are within arm's reach, all arranged where you need them. You can't help but feel a sense of pride in your work and your workspace. It's not just a place to forge metal, it's a place where history lives, where the past and present come together in the heat of the fire. Historians still argue whether the tools of Viking blacksmiths or as refined as their Roman counterparts. But the fact remains that these simple, functional instruments allowed the Vikings to create their masterpieces. With each strike, with each tool, you carry on that legacy. There's something incredibly humbling about the realization that, through your hands, these tools continue to shape the world. Asterisk, the steady rhythm of your hammer strikes fills the workshop, a familiar beat that has come to define your day. Each blow is measured and deliberate, an extension of your breath and heartbeat. You lift the hammer, the weight of it familiar in your grip, and bring it down on the glowing metal dot. It rings out with a sound that echoes in your bones. The sharp clang of metal meeting metal dot. The noise is surprisingly musical, like the sound of a distant bell tolling in the deep stillness of the forge dot. It's not just about the work. It's about the rhythm dot. As the hammer strikes the metal, it vibrates through the air, vibrating through your bones and your muscles. Each blow is a beat, and together they form a song of creation dot. It's a dance, really, one that requires your body and mind to be in perfect harmony. There's no room for distraction. Your focus narrows to the anvil, to the fire, to the metal dot. Everything else fades away, and all that matters is the work. The sound of the hammer on the metal becomes the heartbeat of the forge. There's a comforting steadiness to it, a rhythm that mirrors the passing of time itself. Each strike follows the one before it, with no deviation, no rush dot. The metal must cool at its own pace. The hammer must strike with precision, not force. This is the dance of blacksmithing, the rhythm of labor that has shaped civilizations for centuries. It's not just about the product, it's about the process. The flow of work that turns raw material into something useful, something beautiful. Historians still argue whether the process of blacksmithing was ever truly standardized, or whether each smith developed their own individual rhythm. Perhaps some worked in silence, focusing purely on the craft. Others, like you, might have found comfort in the sound, the constant rhythmic clang of the hammer against the metal, the crackle of the fire in the background, the hiss of water as it cools the metal dot to you. It's all part of the symphony that unfolds in the forge dot. As the day wears on, you find yourself lost in this rhythm. Your strikes become automatic, your body moving in time with the metal dot. It's a meditative state, a trance-like focus that you've come to treasure. You don't need to think about each movement. You've done this so many times before that it's become second nature. The work flows through you, and you flow with it. The hammer strikes, the metal bends, and the heat of the forge pulses around you. Steady and sure. It's in these quiet moments between the hammer strikes that you feel a deep sense of connection to the craft. The rhythm of the work isn't just about making something. It's about the feeling of making, the satisfaction of knowing that each strike brings you closer to your goal. The metal is changing beneath your hands, but you're changing too. Every hammer strike makes you a part of something larger, a part of a tradition that spans generations. The clanging of the hammer continues, a steady and soothing sound that fills the forge, and as you work, you begin to feel the weight of the day slip away. The rhythm of the forge becomes your anchor. Each swing of the hammer is a step closer to completion, but also a step closer to a place of calm. It's a quiet space, one where you can focus solely on the task at hand, the work, the flow. The rhythm slows slightly as the day progresses. There's no need to rush. The metal is taking shape slowly but surely. The work will take as long as it takes, and you are patient. The hammer, the anvil, and the fire, they are your companions now, and their song is yours to follow. As the rhythm continues, you can feel the weight of the day settling into your bones, but in a good way. There's a deep satisfaction in the work, in the rhythm of it all, that nothing else can quite match. By now, the workshop feels almost alive with the sound. It's as though the hammer, the fire, and the metal are all singing together, each note echoing off the walls of the forge. You step back for a moment, taking it all in: the heat, the noise, the flow of the work. You've entered a state of pure focus, where time has no meaning, and the work is everything. Each hammer strike brings you closer to something beautiful. And in this moment, you are at peace. Asterisk. As you settle into the rhythm of the forge, today's task is particularly important. You're not just crafting a tool, or a household item, but a weapon, a sword, to be exact. The anticipation that fills you as you approach the forge is different today. It's not just the usual methodical focus. There's something more at stake now. This isn't just a piece of metal. It's a weapon, a symbol of power, and it's destined for a warrior who might one day face battle with it. You gather your materials: iron, steel, and carbon, everything you need to forge a blade worthy of a Viking warrior. The furnace burns hotter today, as if it understands the gravity of the task. You carefully place the iron into the furnace, watching it slowly begin to glow. This process of heating and cooling, hammering and folding, is what turns simple metal into something powerful. It's a delicate art. A perfect sword doesn't happen by accident. It's made through patience, skill, and experience. You'll need all of those today. Historians still argue whether the Vikings themselves were the true originators of the sword-making techniques that became so famous, or whether they learned it from their neighbors. What's certain is that, by the time they were making swords in the Viking Age, they had perfected the craft. The Vikings were renowned for their weapons, which were not just tools of war, but symbols of status and strength. Every sword crafted in the forge was more than a weapon. It was an heirloom, a legacy. The blade you're working on today will not just be a weapon for combat. It will be forged with history, with stories, and with meaning. As you work, your focus sharpens. Every strike of the hammer is purposeful, sending waves of force through the steel. You must fold the metal, heat it again, and then strike, shaping it just right. This process, known as pattern welding, is how you create a sword that's strong but flexible. The skill passed down through generations, and one that requires not just knowledge, but an intuitive understanding of the materials you're working with. With each hammer strike, you are creating not just a weapon, but a symbol of the warrior's strength. The sword will be a reflection of the man who wields it. It must be sharp enough to cut through armor, strong enough to withstand the force of battle. But it must also be balanced, sleek, and beautiful. After all, this will be a symbol of the warrior's status. It must be a thing of pride. You pause for a moment and look at the sword in progress. The blade is beginning to take shape, its edge becoming defined, sharp, and gleaming. The metal is still hot, glowing red in the firelight, but already you can tell that this sword will be something special. It's a masterwork in progress, shaped by your steady hand. But there's more to it than just the forging. This sword will be a reflection of the warrior who holds it. As you work, you think about the man who will eventually wield this blade. You wonder what kind of warrior he will be. Will he be a noble leader, a fierce protector of his people, or perhaps a marauder, venturing into unknown lands with this very sword by his side? The sword will serve him, but it will also tell his story. Historians often debate the significance of the Viking sword, and whether it was truly as important as some legends suggest. Was it merely a tool for battle, or was it a cultural symbol, representing a warrior's connection to the gods and to the land? Regardless of the answers, one thing is clear: the swords forged by Viking blacksmiths were as much about tradition and identity as they were about utility. Every sword was a personal statement, crafted with skill and care, passed from one generation to the next, a legacy in metal. You feel the weight of that legacy in your hands. As you work. It's a humbling feeling. Every strike, every fold is an act of creation. And as the blade slowly takes shape, you realize that this is what you do. You don't just make tools. You craft history. The heat of the forge radiates around you, but you're lost in the work now. Each hammer strike brings you closer to the finished blade. The rest of the world fades into the background, and all that exists is you, the metal, and the fire. It's almost meditative. The way the forge hums, the way the hammer feels in your hand, the way the blade takes shape under your hands. This is your calling, your craft, and with each strike, you are shaping more than metal. You are shaping destiny. Asterisk. As the forge continues to glow with its steady heat, you pause to take a step back from your work, looking out into the small village beyond the blacksmith's workshop. The rhythmic sound of your hammer striking metal blends with the quiet hum of the village life. It's strange how everything feels connected: your work, the people, the land. The blacksmith's role in a Viking village isn't just about forging metal. or crafting tools. It's about being a part of something larger, something woven into the very fabric of the community. You aren't just making weapons, tools, or armor. You're also forging relationships. As the village grows, so does your place within it. People come to you not only for your craft, but for your advice, your presence, and the quiet comfort that comes from knowing you're there, ready to provide. Whether it's the farmers needing new plows, the warriors coming for weapons, or the village women needing a new cooking pot, you are a silent, steadfast fixture in their lives. Historians still argue whether the blacksmith was considered a magician or a master craftsman in Viking society. Some suggest that people viewed the blacksmith's skill with metal as a kind of mystical power, something akin to alchemy, where ordinary materials could be transformed into magical objects. Others maintain that, while important, the blacksmith was simply another tradesman, albeit one whose craft was highly respected. Regardless of the exact status, the blacksmith was always a pillar of the village, a trusted figure whose work ensured the survival and success of the community. You smile as you think about the way the villagers look to you for everything from advice to a simple favor. The blacksmith's shop, though small, becomes a meeting place of sorts. People gather around while you work, talking, laughing, sometimes asking questions about the craft, sometimes just passing the time. There's a warmth here, not just from the forge, but from the relationships formed in the heat of the fire. Today, the local warrior, one of the village's most respected figures, walks in, his face serious as always. He greets you with a nod. You know that today, you're not just crafting a weapon for him. You're crafting something much deeper. You've worked on his sword before, shaped the armor that protects him, but now it's time for something personal. He trusts you, not just as a craftsman, but as someone who has a part in shaping his identity, his strength, and his place in the village. The warriors in your village might be the ones who fight on the front lines, but it's the blacksmith who helps shape their destiny. Your work ensures their protection, their success in battle, and their strength. And it's not just the warriors who benefit from your skill. It's everyone, from the farmers to the traders, from the elders to the children. Your work touches them all, ensuring that life continues smoothly. You pause for a moment, looking over the finished piece, one of many, yet still significant. The connection between your craft and the village is a quiet one, but it's powerful. You think about how this sword, like all the others, will eventually leave your hands and go to someone who will use it. It's a simple tool, but it carries meaning. It will protect, it will defend, and in some cases, it will lead to victory. But beyond that, it represents trust. The warrior trusts you to make him a tool that will help him protect the village. The villagers trust you to provide them with the tools that make their lives easier. You are an integral part of this small but vital community. The blacksmith's connection to the people is more than just physical. It's about the intangible trust, respect, and interdependence. The village wouldn't be the same without you. And in turn, you wouldn't be the same without the village. Every day, you are shaping the future, forging not just metal, but the bonds that hold the community together. As the warrior leaves your shop, nodding his approval, you feel a deep sense of pride. You're not just a craftsman, you're a creator of futures. Each item you forge is a small but important piece of the larger puzzle. And though you will never be famous or wealthy in the traditional sense, you are rich in something else, the knowledge that your work matters, and that you are truly a part of something larger than yourself. As the afternoon sun begins to lower in the sky, the quiet hum of the forge continues, its heat wrapping you in a familiar embrace. But today, you're not just focused on the hammer or the fire. You take a moment to look around the workshop again, and you notice the lesser tools, the ones that aren't as glamorous or obvious, but are just as crucial to your work. They lie scattered on the workbenches or hanging from nails on the walls, often overlooked but indispensable. The tongs, the chisels, the small files. These tools are as much a part of the blacksmith's world as the great hammer or the furnace. There's one tool in particular that catches your eye, a small, intricate device you use to carefully carve patterns into metal. It's a tool you don't often think about, but it's one you use daily. It's an instrument of precision, and it allows you to add small but important details to your work without The sword would be just a blade functional, but lacking the artistry that gives it character. The delicate swirls etched into the metal are what turn a simple piece of iron into a Viking sword. Historians still debate the range of tools Viking blacksmiths used, particularly when it comes to ornamental work. Some believe that the Viking smiths were primarily focused on utility crafting tools, weapons, and everyday items, while others argue that blacksmiths also produced intricate works of art, as seen in the decorated hilts of swords and shields. What's certain is that blacksmithing in Viking society wasn't limited to just the basics. Even in the most utilitarian of crafts, there was room for artistry, for the small touches that made a piece unique. You run your fingers over the small file, feeling the rough texture of it. It's a tool that requires patience. Each stroke is deliberate, slow, and measured. Not a tool that can be rushed. You've learned that over time. The art of shaping metal isn't just about brute force. It's about control, precision, and care. With this small tool, you can make even the most basic of weapons into something beautiful. A weapon isn't just a means to an end. It's also a work of art. It carries with it the spirit of its maker, the story of its creation. You pick up the tongs next. They're worn, with edges smoothed from years of use. They're not flashy or impressive, but without them, you wouldn't be able to work the metal at all. They allow you to handle the hot iron safely, to shape it with the precision necessary for the work you do. The tongs may not be the most glamorous tool in the shop, but they're essential. Without them, the forge would be useless. They're the unsung heroes of the workshop, always there but rarely noticed. Looking around the room, you can see that there are 100 more tools like this, each one performing a small but vital role in your work. The small hammer you use for detailed work, the pliers for gripping and bending, the chisels for shaping. Every tool has a purpose, a place in the process. And while some of them may seem small or insignificant, they're all part of the greater picture. The blacksmith shop is a symphony, and every tool plays its part in the melody. Even the simplest tools, like the bucket you use to quench the heated metal, are vital. The water hisses and steams as the hot metal is plunged into it, rapidly cooling it down and hardening it. Without that moment of cooling, the blade would never be the same. It's a dramatic shift in temperature that transforms the metal, solidifying it and locking in the shape you've created. That splash of water, that hiss of steam, is a sound you've come to associate with success, a moment of transformation. In a way, these hidden tools are just as important as the more obvious ones. The hammer, the anvil, the forge, these are the tools that get the most attention. But it's the small ones, the quiet ones, that often make the difference. The tools may be humble, but they are indispensable. You think about how, without them, your work wouldn't be as refined, as sharp, as detailed. The beauty of blacksmithing lies in the combination of strength and finesse, and these lesser tools allow you to achieve that balance. You think about the future, about passing these tools down to the next generation. Each one carries the history of the workshop, the weight of centuries of craft and knowledge. And as you look at them, scattered around the room, you realize that each tool has its own story. Every scratch, every dent, every wear marks the passage of time, the transformation of both the craftsman and the craft. Asterisk, the hammer strikes, the anvil rings, and the fire crackles in the background. But there's a strange peace that settles over you. In the forge, despite the physical demands of blacksmithing, there's a deep mental calm that comes with it. As the day goes on and your rhythm grows steadier, you find yourself slipping into a state of focus so intense it feels almost meditative. The world outside seems to disappear, and all that exists is you, the hammer, the metal, and the fire. You've never thought of it this way before, but the act of blacksmithing is like a form of prayer. It's a quiet, spiritual practice that allows you to focus solely on the present moment. Every hammer, strike, every shaping of the metal is a small act of creation, a piece of art, a step in the larger process. The repetitive nature of the work helps you clear your mind. As your body moves in a rhythm that requires no thought, your muscles remember what to do. Your hands, steady from years of practice, know how to move without hesitation. Historians still debate whether ancient crafts, like blacksmithing, were ever seen as spiritual acts in Viking culture. Some suggest that the act of forging metal was deeply intertwined with the Vikings' belief in the gods, and that blacksmiths were seen as special, almost sacred figures, responsible for creating weapons that would determine the fates of warriors. Whether or not this belief was widespread, there's no denying the deep connection between the blacksmith and his craft. You shape not just the metal, but the destiny of those who will wield it. In the quiet of the forge, time seems to stretch. The hours blur together as you move through your work. Each hammer strike melding into the next. There's no room for distractions here. The heat of the fire demands your full attention, but the act of shaping the metal allows your mind to wander just enough. You find yourself thinking about the village, about the lives that will be touched by your work. You think about the warriors who will carry your swords into battle, the farmers who will use your plows, the families who will rely on your pots and tools. There's a deep satisfaction in knowing that you are, in a way, part of the larger picture. Your work is essential, yes, but it also connects you to a web of life and history that stretches back through the ages. The process of blacksmithing becomes like a gentle meditation, a way to lose yourself in the rhythm of work, to clear your mind of everything else. Focus on the strike of the hammer, the heat of the fire, the way the metal bends and molds under your touch. The world outside the forge fades, and all that exists is the forge itself. There's no room for worry, no space for regret. There's only the metal and the fire, and your ability to shape them. It's a strange peace. This quiet focus. It's not the kind of peace you might find in a still garden or on a quiet mountain. It's not the absence of sound or movement. It's the peace that comes from being fully immersed in the moment. The peace that comes from working with your hands, creating something that will last long after you've left this world. There's a rhythm to the work, a flow that carries you through the day, and in it you find comfort. The hammer falls, the fire burns, and the world outside continues on. Here, in the forge, you are at peace. The metal cools, the sword takes shape, and you find a kind of quiet joy in the work. It's a simple life, in many ways, but it's one that has its own beauty. Every strike of the hammer is a small moment of creation, a moment of quiet meditation, and as you work, you realize that you're not just shaping metal, you're shaping your own mind, clearing away the noise of the world and finding peace in the simple act of creation. The forge is a place of creation and craftsmanship, but it is also a place of danger. You've grown accustomed to the heat, the hammer, the fire, and the rhythm of your work, but even in your familiarity with the forge, you never forget the potential for danger that lingers in the air. The heat is intense, the metal sharp, and the fire relentless. One wrong move, one slip of the hand, and the peaceful world of your craft could be shattered in an instant. As you step closer to the furnace, feeling the familiar warmth on your face, you notice the thin film of sweat beginning to form on your brow. The forge has a way of making you forget about everything else, focusing you entirely on the work at hand. But it also has a way of creeping up on you, of catching you off guard with its dangers. The iron is hot enough to burn through your leather gloves, and the flames are always ready to leap up and scorch anything too close. You've heard the stories, those whispered tales of blacksmiths who misjudged the fire or made a careless mistake. The stories about burns, about losing control of a hammer, about being struck by the anvil in a moment of distraction. But those are just stories, right? You've always managed to avoid such accidents. You've always been careful. But that doesn't mean the danger is any less real. It's there, just beneath the surface, a constant reminder of the volatile nature of your craft. Historians still debate whether the blacksmiths of ancient times were fully aware of the risks they faced, or whether they accepted danger as an inevitable part of the craft. Some argue that they understood the hazards and took steps to mitigate them, using thicker gloves, better tools, and specialized techniques. Others suggest that, like many ancient craftsmen, the risk was simply a part of their daily life, something they accepted without question. Either way, danger was never far from the blacksmith's workshop. Pause for a moment and glance around the room, taking in the sharp edges of tools, the flickering flames, and the stacks of metal waiting to be worked. there's a quiet hum of tension in the air, and you feel the weight of it. Even in the calmness of the forge, the hammer lies heavy in your hand, the tongs are at the ready, and the anvil waits patiently for the next strike. But you also know that at any moment, this peaceful routine could be interrupted by something as small as a flickering spark from the fire or a careless mistake. Despite the risks, there's an undeniable allure to the forge. It's not just about the work, it's about the mastery of the elements, the ability to control fire and metal, to create something out of nothing. But that mastery comes at a price. It's the price of awareness, of caution, and of the quiet knowledge that at any moment, everything could go wrong. You've learned to respect that. The heat, the fire, the sharp edges of the metal, they are your tools, but they are also your constant companions. You know their power, their danger, and their beauty. As you continue your work, you remind yourself to stay focused, to remain aware of every motion. The work is too important, the craft too valuable to let anything distract you. You take a deep breath, feeling the heat wash over you, and then continue with your hammer strikes. The metal is beginning to take shape, the edges growing sharper, the form becoming clearer. But still, the danger remains. It's a quiet companion, one that you can't ignore, but one that you've learned to live with. The forge is both your sanctuary and your challenge, your space of creation, and your reminder of the fragility of life. Each hammer strike carries weight, and not just because of the metal, but because of the risks inherent in the craft. You keep working, hammering, and shaping, all the while aware that your careful attention is the only thing keeping the danger at bay. There is a sense of calm in that awareness. Though you are not afraid of the forge, but you respect it. It's a balance, one that you've learned over time. The forge will always be dangerous, always be unpredictable, but it is also a place where great things are made, a place where you can shape both the metal and your destiny. As long as you stay alert, stay focused, you know that you will emerge from the forge with something more than just a completed weapon. You will emerge with a deep sense of accomplishment and connection to a tradition that has shaped centuries. The forge is more than just a place of work, it's a place of ritual, where tradition intertwines with craftsmanship, and where the act of creation is infused with age-old practices. As you continue your work, you can feel the weight of these traditions, passed down through generations of blacksmiths, from those who first discovered the power of fire to those who forged weapons for kings. These rituals are more than mere habits. They are an integral part of the blacksmith's world, grounding the work in something larger than just the metal. Before you even light the fire, there are rituals. You begin with a small prayer or whisper, something passed down through the years, a quiet word of thanks to the gods of fire and metal. Some might say it's a superstition, but you've always felt that there's power in these small acts, power in acknowledging the forces at work around you. The forge is a place where you stand between two worlds, the physical, where metal is shaped and tools are crafted, and the spiritual, where the unseen forces of fate, luck, and tradition play their part. Historians still debate the role of ritual in Viking blacksmithing. Some argue that these practices were symbolic, intended to bring good fortune and ward off danger. Others suggest that the rituals were part of a deeply ingrained belief in the sacredness of the craft. Either way, what's clear is that blacksmithing was seen as a special, almost divine art, worthy of respect and reverence. For a Viking blacksmith, the forge wasn't just a place of work. It was a sacred space where the boundaries between the mortal and the divine blurred. As the flames rise in the forge, you can't help but think about the other rituals that accompany your work. The way the tongs are always placed in a specific spot, the careful alignment of your tools, the way you wipe your hands on the rag before picking up the hammer. These seemingly small actions are not accidental. They are part of a long-standing tradition, a way of preparing yourself, your space, and your tools for the work ahead. Every motion is deliberate, purposeful, and steeped in meaning. Some of these traditions are shared by blacksmiths across cultures. The way the metal is heated, the way the fire is tended to, the way tools are stored and cleaned. These are universal practices that have stood the test of time. Other rituals are more personal, passed down from master to apprentice, from father to son. The little sayings, the chants, whispered while hammering, the quiet moments of reflection before diving into a new project. These are the things that give the craft its soul. You think back to the first time you worked with your master, the way he would guide your hands with a calm, steady voice, the way he would whisper words of encouragement or warnings as you shaped your first piece of metal. Even now, years later, you can hear those words echo in your mind. They're not just instructions, they're the essence of the craft, the connection between generations. When you pass down your knowledge to the next generation, it will not just be about teaching them how to hammer metal dot, it will be about passing on the rituals, the traditions, the quiet reverence that comes with being a blacksmith. Each piece of metal you forge is more than just a tool. It's a part of this larger tradition, a part of the sacred rhythm of the forge. The sword you're shaping today isn't just for a warrior. It's a continuation of an unbroken line of craftsmanship that stretches back centuries. With each hammer strike, you are connecting with the past, shaping something that will one day be passed down, just as you have inherited the tools and knowledge of those who came before you. As you work, you take a moment to look around the forge. The tools are in their rightful places. The fire burns steadily, and the rhythm of your work is soothing, almost meditative. There's a quiet peace in knowing that you are a part of something so much larger than yourself. The forge is a place where time is suspended, where the past and future exist simultaneously. Each ritual, each tradition, is a link in an unbroken chain that stretches back through history, uniting you with the blacksmiths who have worked in this very space long before you. It's strange how these rituals, these small, almost imperceptible actions, can shape the work you do. They ground you, remind you of the larger purpose of your craft. The blacksmith's art is not just about forging metal. It's about forging connections, both to the past and to the people who will use the things you create. You smile to yourself as you strike the metal again, feeling the weight of the tradition, the power of the forge, and the quiet pride that comes from being part of something timeless. As the work continues and the day begins to wane, you take a moment to examine your tools more closely. The forge crackles softly in the background, and the rhythmic sound of your hammer strikes fills the room. But now, your gaze shifts to the instruments that make your craft possible. They're more than mere tools. They're extensions of your own skill, extensions of the Viking ingenuity that allowed your people to thrive in a world where survival often depended on craftsmanship and their own ability to create from the raw materials of nature. You pick up the tongs, heavy and worn from years of use. Handles are smoothed down, shaped by the constant pressure of your hands, and you notice the deep indentations where the metal has pressed in over time. Tongs, simple though they may seem, are one of the most important tools you have. They allow you to control the metal with precision, to guide it where it needs to go, without burning your hands. It's one of the many small miracles of Viking blacksmithing, how such simple tools can shape the world around you. Looking around the forge, you can see the tools that have allowed Vikings to build a reputation as master craftsmen. The hammer is, of course, the heart of your work. Its handle is long, worn smooth by years of use, the head solid and firm, designed for power and precision. You've held this hammer so many times that it feels like a part of you now. With every strike, you make the metal bend and shape to your will. The balance of the hammer is perfect, light enough to swing with precision, heavy enough to create the force you need. You feel connected to the craftsmen who came before you, using the same tool, the same rhythm to create weapons, tools, and art. Historians still argue about the origins of Viking blacksmithing tools, whether they were designed by the Vikings themselves or influenced by the neighboring cultures. Some suggest that Viking blacksmiths borrowed heavily from Roman or Celtic designs, adapting the tools to fit their own needs. Others argue that the Vikings were completely self-sufficient in their crafting, creating tools and methods that were uniquely their own. Regardless of their origin, one thing is clear. Viking tools were designed with a perfect blend of practicality and artistry. You notice the chisel lying next to you, its blade thin and sharp. It's used for fine detail work, carving intricate patterns into metal or wood. The handle is worn, but the blade is still sharp, honed by years of careful use. You use it sparingly, only when the work demands it. It's a tool that requires patience, one small stroke at a time, carefully measured, every motion purposeful. The chisel allows you to create beauty from function, turning a simple piece of metal into a masterpiece of design. The file, too, catches your eye. It's small and worn, its teeth slightly dulled from use, but still capable of smoothing rough edges, shaping the blade into something sharp and precise. A file isn't as glamorous as the hammer or the anvil, but it's an indispensable part of your toolkit. The tool that turns a rough, raw blade into something ready for battle. The work is slow, meticulous, but it's essential for perfection. You move to the anvil, your most trusted companion. It's solid, ancient, and steadfast. Worn by time, but just as reliable as the day it was forged. The anvil has seen hundreds, perhaps thousands, of pieces of metal transformed under its heavy weight. Its surface is pockmarked and scarred, a testament to the years of hammering and shaping that have occurred on its surface. But despite the damage, it is unwavering. It supports the metal, guides the work, and ensures that every strike is absorbed and transmitted with maximum force. Without the anvil, the hammer strikes would be lost. It is a crucial partner in the dance of blacksmithing, and without it, none of this would be possible. Looking around, you see the tools scattered about, each one having its place. The bellows, worn and reliable, slowly push air into the furnace, keeping the fire steady and hot. The quenching bucket sits nearby, ready to cool the metal as soon as it's shaped. The tools of the trade, simple and essential, are scattered throughout the workshop, each one playing a part in the process of creation. These tools are the backbone of Viking craftsmanship. Without them, the great swords and shields, the tools of the farmers and the weapons of the warriors, would never have come into existence. It's in the careful use of these tools, the understanding of how they work together, that the true artistry of blacksmithing lies. Each tool is a small part of the whole, and together they form a system of creation that has lasted for centuries. As you pick up each tool, you feel a deep sense of pride. These are the tools of your trade, the tools that have shaped your life and the lives of the people in your village. They are the tools that connect you to the past, to the blacksmiths who came before you, and to the future, where your work will live on in the hands of others. The sound of the hammer striking metal is your constant companion. But as the day stretches on, you feel the need for a break. Every craftsman needs a moment to step away from the forge, to rest your body and refresh your mind. It's easy to get caught up in the endless rhythm of work, to lose yourself in the forging and shaping of metal. But you've learned over time that balance is key. The blacksmith's life is not just about hours spent hammering. It's about finding moments of relaxation, of community, and of joy amidst the labor. You set down your hammer and stretch, feeling the tension in your shoulders ease for just a moment. The forge hums quietly in the background. But it's time for a different kind of rhythm, one that doesn't involve the sharp clang of metal. You step outside, your boots heavy against the soft earth, and breathe in the fresh air. The world outside the workshop is peaceful, almost silent, save for the occasional rustle of the trees or the distant murmur of the village. Historians still debate whether Viking blacksmiths had a designated off time, or whether they worked year-round all day, every day. Some argue that blacksmiths were crucial to the village's survival and had to work continuously, while others suggest that there were festivals and gatherings that allowed for rest and relaxation. What is certain is that even the hardest working blacksmith needed moments of respite, whether it was spent enjoying the company of friends or simply finding time to relax and think. As you walk through the village, you pass familiar faces, children playing, farmers tending to their fields, and traders preparing for the next journey. It's a reminder of the simple pleasures that make up life here. Despite the demands of your craft, there's a sense of peace that comes with knowing your work benefits everyone. The sword you crafted earlier today will be wielded by a warrior, yes, but your plows have helped the farmers in their fields, and your household tools have made daily life easier for those in the village. You walk by the communal fire pit, where a group of villagers has gathered. They welcome you with a smile and a nod, offering you a seat by the fire. You sit down, feeling the warmth of the flames as they dance in the night air. The smell of roasting meat and the crackling of the fire are a welcome change from the sharp smells of the forge. It's here, in these small moments, that you find a sense of peace, a reminder that while your work is important, it's not everything. There's life beyond the forge, and it's good to step away from time to time and enjoy it. As you sit there, one of the villagers, a fellow craftsman, begins to tell a story. His voice is calm, almost soothing, and you find yourself drawn into the tale. It's a story of a great warrior, one who had wielded a sword similar to the ones you forge. The warrior was a hero, revered by all who knew him, but it was his humility and kindness that made him truly great. The story is simple, but there's something about it that resonates with you. It's a reminder that the work you do, though important, is not the only thing that defines you. It's the connections you make with others, the way you contribute to the community, that truly matters. Historians often highlight the strong sense of community in Viking society, particularly among craftspeople. The blacksmith's work was vital, but so too was the work of the farmers, the traders, and the healers. Everyone had a role to play, and it was through cooperation and mutual respect that the village thrived. As you listen to the story, you realize that this is why you take the time for moments like this, because it reminds you that the forge, as important as it is just one part of your life. Eventually, the fire dies down and the night grows quiet. You feel the peaceful satisfaction of having taken a break, of reconnecting with the village and with yourself. You head back to the forge, your steps slow and measured, a sense of balance settling over you. The work is waiting, the metal is still hot, but you feel more centered now, more focused. The hammer feels right in your hand as you return to the anvil, ready to continue shaping the world. The rhythm of work resumes, but this time it's with a renewed sense of purpose. In the quiet moments between hammer strikes, you remember that even a blacksmith's life needs balance. It's in the breaks, the laughter, the stories shared around a fire that you find the strength to return to your craft. It's in these moments that you find the energy to keep shaping, to keep creating, and to keep contributing to the life of the village. As the day fades into evening, the forge becomes quieter, the once blazing fire now reduced to soft embers, glowing in the dimming light. The rhythm of your hammer strikes has slowed, and the last pieces of metal are taking shape. There's no rush anymore. The work has become a meditation in itself, the final stages of creation feeling more like a gentle conclusion than a goal to be reached. The steady flicker of the embers reflects off the walls, casting shadows that dance like memories of the day. You take a deep breath, feeling the satisfaction of a day well spent. You wipe the sweat from your brow, your hands still steady from the work, though your muscles are beginning to feel the strain. The heat of the forge has become more of a companion than a force to be tamed, and you feel a quiet sense of gratitude for it, for the way it has helped shape the metal and your mind. With the final strike, you set the hammer down and step back, surveying the work that lies before you, the finished sword, its gleaming edge reflecting the dying light of the forge. There's a sense of pride in this moment, a quiet acknowledgement that you've created something lasting. Historians often debate the role of the blacksmith in the Viking world, particularly at the end of the day. Was the blacksmith's work done once the sun went down, or was there still a ritual of cleaning, refining, and ensuring the tools were ready for tomorrow's tasks? Some suggest that evening was a time for quiet reflection, a time to step away from the forge and return to family and community. Others argue that blacksmithing never truly stops. It's a craft that seeps into every part of life. And even after a fire dies down, there is always more work to be done. You take a moment to clean your tools, placing each one in its proper spot. The sound of metal being carefully wiped down, the smell of the forge settling into your skin. It's a comforting routine. It's also a way to mark the end of your work for the day. A gentle transition from the intensity of the forge to the quietude of evening. As you carefully arrange the tools, you realize that even the smallest act of tidying up has its own rhythm, its own meaning. It's a sign of respect for the tools, for the work, and for yourself. The fire begins to die down, and the ambient warmth of the forge becomes softer, more diffused. You sit for a moment by the dying embers, The heat just enough to ward off the evening chill. The flames crackle and pop, the occasional hiss of dying embers filling the space with its soothing sounds. There's something almost sacred in this moment, something that brings a sense of closure to the day's work. It's not just about completing a task. It's about acknowledging the craft, the process, and the time spent shaping metal, shaping yourself, shaping history. You reflect on the work that you've done. The sword you forged will soon leave your hands, passing into the care of the warrior who will wield it. You think about how it will be used, how it will protect, how it will become a part of someone's story. It's strange to think that your work will one day fade from the forge, to be used in ways you can't predict. But that's the beauty of it. The work is never truly finished. It's passed on, its legacy carried by others. The quiet of the evening settles in fully now. You finish cleaning up the last of the tools, and slowly begin to extinguish the fire. The glow of the embers is now faint, and the air cools as the night takes hold. You step outside for a final breath of fresh air, feeling the cool breeze on your skin and the soft rustling of the trees as the village settles into the peace of night. You've done your work. And now it's time for rest. Tomorrow will come with new tasks, new challenges, but for now, there's only the quiet hum of the village, the cool night air, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing that, for today, you've shaped the world with your hands. As the final embers of the forge flicker out, you step back, letting the darkness of the night settle around you. The quiet of the workshop is profound, almost sacred. The fire that has been your companion all day now gives way to the peaceful stillness of the evening. You sit beside the dying glow of the embers, your mind and body tired from the day's work, but content. The forge, now cool and quiet, seems to breathe alongside you. It has been your home, your space of creation, and now it is a place of rest. Outside, the village is quiet. The bustle of the day has settled into a peaceful hum, the sound of crickets in the fields, the soft rustling of leaves in the trees. The workday is over, but in the stillness of the night, there's a sense of reflection. You look over the workshop, taking in the tools, the forge, the last traces of heat. Everything is in its place, ready to be picked up again tomorrow. But for now, the work is done, and the fire is out. The quiet is a welcome companion. Historians often discuss the intimate relationship between Viking blacksmiths and their workspaces. The forge was not just a place of labor, but a personal space, a sacred space with a craftsman's spirit, and hands intertwined with the materials he worked with. In the evenings, when the forge was silent and the metal cooled, it was a time for reflection. The blacksmith would often sit, much like you do now, and think about the day's work, the pieces of metal shaped, the tools honed, the creations that would soon leave his hands and be put to use. The quiet after the workday was a time for the blacksmith to reconnect with the work, to appreciate the process, and to prepare for tomorrow. As you sit there, a deep sense of pride washes over you. The sword that lies ready for the warrior, the tools you've crafted for the farmers, the simple household items that make life easier, all of it is a part of something bigger. You've spent your day shaping not just metal, but the future. The work you do doesn't stop at the forge. It ripples out, touching the lives of everyone in your village, from the highest warrior to the smallest child. Your role as a blacksmith is vital, and even though it might not always be obvious, you know that you play a key part in keeping the world turning. The quiet of the night is peaceful, but there's something about it that also feels full. The forge may be silent, but the work continues in the quiet spaces of the world, carried forward by the items you've created, by the tools and weapons that will soon leave the shop. There's a connection that runs deeper than metal, deeper than fire. It's a connection to the past, to the ancestors who stood where you stand now, creating and crafting with the same tools, the same rhythm. And it's a connection to the future, the people who will use your work, the ones who will continue the traditions, who will sit by their own forges and shape the world. You watch as the last of the embers flicker and die, leaving only a soft, lingering warmth in the room. The forge is now empty of life, but it is never truly silent. It hums with the memory of a day spent creating, spent shaping the world. The quiet is only temporary. for tomorrow will come, and with it, another day in the life of a blacksmith. As the fire dies, you stand, stretching your tired limbs. The quiet of the night is a balm for your senses, a reminder that even in the silence there is work to be done, and there is peace to be found. You gather your tools, secure the forge for the night, and step outside. The moonlight is soft on the earth, casting a gentle glow over the village as you walk back to your home. The work of the day is over, but the journey of the craft continues, carried forward by the rhythm of the hammer and the quiet hum of the forge. With a final glance back at the darkened workshop, you feel a deep sense of contentment. Tomorrow, you'll be back. The forge will call to you once again, but for now, you step into the quiet of the night, knowing that your work, your craft, will live on, in the tools, the weapons, and the memories of those who use them.